Hello, everybody. Welcome on another episode of Embodying the Logos. Today, I'm here with Ahmed. Ahmed.
Better. Better. Much better. No, the first one was better. The first one was better.
Almost right.
Ahmed.
And
Yeah.
we're here to talk about one of these easy subjects, which is called truth. Like, why not, right? That would be nice if we could be truthful. And we need to know what that means, obviously. And yeah, so we're gonna do embodying the logos around this idea of truth, and we'll try to embody that while we're doing that, so we can relate to that at multiple levels. So I'm at what is your definition of truth?
Thank you, Manuel. First of all, for me, truth is definitely. I wish truth is as simple as you find it to be, and I hope to find it as simple as you do find it by the end of this conversation. So, truth. For me, there's two levels to truth. So there's the superficial level, which is the truth as correspondence, that the sentence you say or the fact that you know about somehow maps to an actual reality which happened out there and which can be described by that sentence. Or there's the deeper definition of truth, which is essentially that which gathers the facts together and actually makes the statements about them possible. So it's kind of the logos behind the facts. That's what truth is for me. So to put it in a very concrete example, let's say I'm writing an article. There's the premise behind the article, which is intangible. It's the intelligible aspect of the article, which you get to by reading the article. In order to write a good article, you need to start there. You need to get a good idea of what is the idea that is being communicated through you. What is the gestalt that is not reducible to the words? And you need to have a very strong foundation, a strong connection to that place. And only then can you start really transferring it loyally to words. Did that make sense, or should I clarify a bit more?
Well, no, it makes perfect sense. I don't know if I'm in agreement, right? So
Hmm.
first of all, we've actually talked about correspondence theory of truth, and um, like doesn't work, right? Because
Mhm.
the words don't have meaning, right? So the words cannot correspond to reality
Mm.
because they need embodiment as a medium to gain the correspondence, right? So
Yeah.
what the words are doing is there's signs, right? They're signifiers that appeal to specific understanding within you that you can resonate with reality, hopefully, right? Like
Mhm.
that's the ideal. And then when you go to this higher level of truth, right? I immediately was thinking about fractals, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
like
Absolutely.
is it a higher level, or are we just like, because it's bigger than you, your understanding of it is as if it's a higher level, but it's just literally the same process, right? That's an open question.
Mm.
Um,
Mm. Mm.
but I'm just gonna go in with the skepticism that there's two things there. Like I just
Mm. Well, first off, I definitely agree with. Maybe I miscommunicated when I said correspondence. I meant w- maybe it's closer to what you said, that the words. I mean, the words themselves clearly they have no meaning. They're just conventions that we use among each other,
mhm.
but they're gateways, and when they're like placeholders, they're basically
Right.
placeholders for that logos, for that.
But
They're
but 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 they don't have authority, right? Like that's the problem, right? So when
Mm.
you're writing,
Mm.
right, you're trying to appeal to something in someone else, but
Yeah.
you can't, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the problem, right? And so well, when I try to design practices or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I use words like integration, right? And then everybody's like, yes, 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 right? And actually, I'm gonna do a stream with Mark about agreement, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're agreeing with you, but they don't even have the capacity to understand what integration means.
Right. 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 Right.
And so how can you agree when you don't know?
Very good. Very, very good. Love that question. Yes. How can you agree when you don't know? I think that's a pattern I see in myself, that I have a tendency sometimes to agree without asking the clarification questions. Like, what do you mean by integration? At least that would be the next step for it. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you can, yeah.
but even if I explain it to you, right,
Mm.
you might just be unable to understand what I say because you don't have the experience. You don't have
Yes,
the embodied resonance to
absolutely.
appeal to.
But if,
So,
if if both people have it, then it should be somewhat possible, don't you think?
well, okay, so now we're gonna talk about, well, what do you want, right? Like, what do you want
Mhm.
when you're communicating with people, right?
Okay.
So when I communicate with you and I say integration, I I effectively want you to attend in a certain way,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I cannot know what that is for you, right?
Hmm.
Like, I don't know the way that you need to attend because I don't
Yeah.
know what you're lacking and what you can use. And so you need to find your own way,
Yeah.
right? So in a sense, it's important to leave it at the abstraction so that I don't fill in the details for you, right? So
So
and this
you
was
don't
actually,
impose it. So you don't impose it on me, you mean?
well, I can't, right?
Mm.
But you can impose something wrong upon yourself, right?
Okay.
And I can misguide you.
Yeah.
Okay, so like it's a misguiding that I do, not an imposition.
Okay.
But there was this amazing line in Plato. We did a book club yesterday,
Yeah.
and the line was, "My opinion is in agreement with yours." And so we were like, okay, let's do a little exploration around this.
Mm.
And it's like, if 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 I'm looking from the left side, right, up onto the mountain, what I'm seeing is different than when you're looking from the right side up the mountain, right?
Mm.
But since we're looking up at the same thing, we
Mm.
we can still see the upwardness,
Mm.
right? So we can have agreement in the going up,
Okay. Okay.
right? So
Okay.
even though I don't see what you're seeing,
Right. 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 So we both agree that we're looking at something, at least.
right? And that is up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that there's a way to move towards it that is united,
Okay.
even though we're at different places.
That is unite, but that's the point. That's the point, that at some point we are united in that sense.
Right,
So there is something in common, even though we have different ways of both expressing it, experiencing it, and going towards it.
right.
Yes.
So this is why I was like, okay, like, what are we doing here, right? Because there's a
Mm,
level, right,
mm, mm,
upon
mm.
which we have agreement, or upon which
Ah.
something is true for both of us,
Uh-huh.
but there's a different level in which it's not, right? So now we have to look at what level of reality are we engaging from, and we need to be careful that we, right, if we're looking at the fractal, we don't go a level up, or we go a level down, because then our union might no longer be true, right?
Yeah, we might
So,
be
so there's,
talking. Yeah, 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 yeah. But how do we go about that? That's the question.
why do we want to?
Because we want to make sure we're talking about the same thing and not having two different
No,
conversations. No?
no,
Okay.
like because this is what where telos is important, right?
Yeah.
So when we're communicating, we're we're trying to do something functional,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So when I'm communicating to you, I try to find what is useful to you, right? So I'm trying to condescend or raise myself, depending on where I'm at, right? To be with you, and then we can
So you're searching for common ground.
Right, but yes, but there's a framing, right? Like there's always a context which makes things relevant, right? So that's kind of where the common ground is, and then the conclusion that we're having, right, or what we're gonna do is following from that, right? Like it's like you were saying with that which gathers all the facts together, right? Like
Okay. So if I get you correctly, we want to make sure we're being gathered by the same thing.
We're following the same spirit, right?
Same logos. We're following the same logos, basically. We're following the same spirit. Let's put it this way.
Right, and we're hoping that is in accordance with the logos. Yes.
We hope it's okay. Maybe I don't know what the logo. I think I'm using John's definition of the logos, not because I'm talking about the logos.
Yeah, but this is the problem, right? Because I use being as good as a starting point. Right. So the logos is that which birds being or something, right? It's the structure, the matrix in which
the scaffold.
Well, it's the soil as well as the gravity and the
both at the same time. It is both at the same time. It has this simultaneous. At least this is from the propositions I know about it. I can't speak so much about the reality of it, but at least from the propositions I know about it, that it's both the being and the intelligibility at the same time, right?
No, I don't think it's the being. It's the source of being, right?
The logos is the source of being. Okay.
Like that's why I call it matrix, right? Like it's the mother, right? Like
the womb. Yeah,
the womb, exactly, right?
The womb.
In which being is being birthed.
Right. Okay. And so okay, yeah, that's completely changes the way I think about logos, because logos is no longer has to do with the forms anymore. Because
it does.
It does. Okay.
Yeah, like the forms are the constraints that guide the birthing, right? Like
yes. Okay. And I think the only problem I have, so logos is basically like this command to be, or this.
Yeah, it's the spoken, right? Like it's reality being spoken into existence. Yes.
Great. Logos is reality being spoken into existence, and the effect of this is the being happening. And this command is what brings forth. I don't think I'm there with you on this one. I'm not that I disagree. I don't know if I completely get what you're talking about but I'm interested.
Yeah, but I don't even think that you need. But like, is there a quality that you're missing, Dan? Because maybe we should like talk about that. Like, where's the disagreement instead of whether you.
No, there's no disagreement. It's not that there's a disagreement. It's more like I'm trying to, because I'm running against a wall when I'm asking myself, okay, so there's a creation from nothing, clearly. There's being comes out of nothing, out of nowhere. There is no, the way I'm seeing it when you speak, the metaphors that are coming to my mind is that there is I don't want to call it a force, but
it's a vacuum.
It is a vacuum. It is
right. It's pulling things in. It's not an impositional force. It's
pulling things out into being.
Like in the church, there's this song about rivers of living waters flowing from our bellies. right?
Yeah.
So what does the river flow into? Well, it flows into a riverbed, and the riverbed holds the waters, and it shapes it, right? And they're living waters, right?
Right.
So they, if your waters get shaped in the right way, they produce life.
Yes.
And so that's where, like, there's also a way that they don't, right? You can also produce dead waters.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so this is where I'm objecting against the way that you're framing the logos, because I don't think you have to participate with the logos. like there's other things that you can participate with that are
Right.
dead.
Yeah. Because in that sense, logos is something very absolute and very far away, because it's the deepest level of existence then. But what you can
Well,
participate
it's
in,
the source of life.
it's the source of life. Yeah. It's the
Right.
source of. With that, I'm on the same page.
Right, and that connects it back to being, right?
Yeah.
Because being is living, right? Because it's like, and this goes into a word that's been popping up, is generative, right?
Yeah. Generous or something like that.
Well, generative, like, so it has the capacity to sustain and build,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there's only a limited set, like, right? Like, this is the asymmetry in the universe. Like, there's only a limited set of actions about all the potential actions that you can do that fits that category, right? So now we're going back to truth, right? So there's a local truth, right? Which you can say, I've already established that the frame that we're in is a living frame, right? And now, how can I be true, right, in accordance with reality within that frame, right? So this is closed world systems, right? Like, this is where propositions and procedures shine.
Yeah.
And then you have the opening up, right?
Yeah.
So like, I as a person have to be true. But if I'm to be true as a person, I have to relate to what is bigger or higher than me.
Yeah.
And I can't do that with a closed system.
Yeah.
So there's a different relationship
Yeah.
that needs to be opening,
Yeah.
and submitted, right? And that requires a surrender, right? So now you have to say, well, there's an authority, right? That which creates the story, right? The author, in which I'm participating.
Yeah.
And if I follow the author, then I will be living in the right story.
Remember what I was saying in the beginning? It's this intelligible aspect of the article that gathers together the words to begin with. This is what I meant. Exactly what you're saying. That you're entering into this field, let's so to say, this field where, I mean, you can enter into. So the way I do it, for example, sometimes I imagine a scenario that fits into what I'm trying to say, and then the scenario sort of gathers a life of its own, because somehow I have this experience of what this is like and what this does and how these gathers things together, and suddenly I'm connected with it again. This place, this all at once understanding of what I'm trying to say, and then the writing comes very naturally after that.
Okay, so that's interesting. So
yeah,
because that's not obvious to me.
uh-huh.
Like I like, why would the writing come natural after that? Because,
Well, it's not always after that. Sometimes you need to start writing in order to get there to begin with.
but do you see the problem that I'm trying to point at? Like, I don't see, like, I get that you're seeing the whole, right?
Yeah.
But seeing the whole doesn't tell you how to communicate the whole. Like, those are two separate things.
Okay. Let me. Okay, I know what you mean. That's a very good question. Excellent question. Yeah, seeing the whole doesn't tell you anything about how to communicate the whole. It's true. It's very, very true. What happens there? So absolutely, yes. So what happens is that I connect it with propositions that I know remind me of the whole. They have this symbolic relationship with the whole.
Mm-hmm.
I know these propositions and I use these propositions as placeholders. So now I have my placeholders, and then you can start connecting the placeholders together and putting more stuff around them that it fits to that which the placeholders point to.
Mm-hmm. So now, in some sense, you're building a scaffolding around
Yes.
the whole. But the problem with that is that it's
Not
still
around the whole. I'm around building it around myself so that I remain connected with the whole. So I remain in conformity to the whole. So I put the pieces in place, so to speak. I put my pieces in place so that I can catch wind more easily. I'm using plumbing metaphor.
Okay. Good. So now you're basically saying, like, I'm an antenna
Yes.
that is attuned to have a certain resonance,
Yes.
and in order to maintain that resonance, I I need to be conforming to certain guiding principles.
Yes.
Okay.
And you have to have faith in it that it's gonna come.
Right. That kind of sounds like invoking, actually.
There is invoking in it. Yes, I would say there is invoking in it. I would definitely say there's an invocation there. I'm definitely invoking the whole by doing that.
Hmm.
So it's a bit like I mean, this happens in very rare moments. Usually, what you need to do, what I need to do at least, it's this combination of just you start writing, like you start writing just intuitively, whatever comes to mind, but you keep your head directed that this is what I'm trying to express, and I need to stay sensitive. Like, okay, is this going in the right direction? Am I getting distracted, or is this the idea that I'm looking for? It usually has a certain flavor. Like, you need to have the sensitivity to what the whole tastes like that you're trying to communicate. And then once you realize, okay, now my words are conforming to the whole, now I'm in this place where the writing is the conformity to the whole at the same time. I'm speaking very abstractly right now, but then then that's when the writing catches fire. But it's a rare thing, and it's very exhausting to get there if you try too hard, because if you try too hard, it kills you. But in these rare moments when it actually works, that whole, which is instructing how I'm writing and where it's coming naturally, that's what I'm referring to as truth.
So yeah, to go back to truth, right? Like, so I like the antenna
Mm-hmm,
metaphor, right? Because that's being true, right?
mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm,
y- you're attuned to the right reality, uh, uh, in a sense, right? Um, yeah, you're you're cheating a couple steps, right? Because there's the gestalt, right? And
mm-hmm.
then there's how you receive the gestalt, and then there's a way that you're trying to distill that, into words, and that's just you talking to yourself at that point, right? And now you need to still present that to an audience.
Um, yes, I am talking to myself. Absolutely, I am basically listening and writing down the closest possible, writing down the words that most conform to whatever I am receiving.
Hmm. But but
Sometimes,
but
yeah.
but what if every step, right? And maybe I even skipped the step,
Mhm.
right? But what
Yeah.
if every step has a way of being true in it?
Mhm.
And so, in order to get the right thing on paper, right,
Mhm.
you need to have the whole stack in alignment, and like
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
the,
Yes.
the that is also has its own truth. Like the staticness as a
I
truth.
see. I see. I see what you're trying to say here. Yeah. That's, yeah, maybe there's some self-deception here involved in telling myself that I've actually figured out some way. Because I mean, obviously it doesn't always quote unquote work. And yes, that has its own truth. Yeah. That has its own truth. When the planets align, that's its own truth. Its own conformity to something bigger.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can get well into my problems with
Mm-hmm.
writing, because and not only with writing, right, but like I've been trying to get things for this little corner, and then the criticism is like, why don't you have the thing, and then we can say yes or no, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way,
Mm-hmm.
because like I can't make a thing and then slot you in it, right? Like you're not an NPC that you like I can just give you whatever, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
like the your place has to be yours. Like it
Yeah.
has to be built around you, because else it doesn't function, right? Like you can say, well, I can make an abstract version, right? Which is basically what a factory worker is, right? Like you say, well, there's this couple of procedures, right? And like I can just take whoever I want and I can put them in there and I can spend 2 days talking to them and then they do the thing, right? But when we're talking about the spirit, right, or the platonic forms, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like that's not a real thing. Like that cannot exist.
Mm. You
Uh,
need to let it be. You need to give it the space to be itself.
right. And and then there's the yeah that well I think this is what Plato calls the dialectic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you there's a process, right, in which you let it generate or something, right? And you need to have a certain attunement to that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the dialectic, or the capacity for dialectic, is the capacity to have that attunement.
Yes.
And to teach someone that attunement, like I don't like Plato even suggests that it isn't possible, like
Yeah, he
literally
says that it's
isn't
impossible. He
possible.
says
But like
he says you can't write it down. There's no method behind it. That's what he says.
no, he says he's basically stating it's impossible. Like he
Okay.
goes further than that. Like
Okay.
he's effectively saying, well, you need to have the right nature, and like if you don't
Uh-huh.
have the right nature, then it's like bye bye. Like like it's not gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
he's really fatalistic, and
Okay.
I don't know. Like I'm a little bit more optimistic, but like
Mm.
there is a sense of faith in there, definitely, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's people that never gonna make the cut, right? Like that's just yeah, that's a reality.
It's
And
not.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
how many people do make the cut, right? And then well we can go into, well, if we present all of these people with the potential of getting in, and like that's not their calling, what are we doing to these people, right? Like
That's where
that
the
sounds
freedom part comes in. It needs to be from the person's freedom. Like they have to be the ones to make the entry in, and they have to want it. And if they don't want
yes,
it, then you cannot force them, because otherwise it is not being, it's just manipulation.
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then what is it that they want, right? Because
Hmm.
Plato goes into this as well, like, oh, like all of these
Mm.
sophists, like they want to be philosophers, but they don't want to be philosophers, right? Like they don't want to be a true philosopher, but they want to play the game of philosophy.
Yeah, they're looking for truth at the propositional level, not at the higher levels.
Well, like the way that he frames it, it's at what can be seen, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's a level, and this is where science operates, right? It's like
Mhm.
the level of feedback, right?
Yes.
And if
Sense
I
in the
have,
world.
and that's where you get expertise,
Yeah.
but you don't get wisdom there,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, so going back to truth, like maybe you want to reframe the truth in here a little bit.
Okay, reframe the truth in here a little bit. Wow, that's. Give me a second to go back through to what we just talked about right there. Ah, Yes. Okay. So, yes. I'm just gonna talk because finding something that's like the first sentence that just came to me out of nowhere, truth is the authority of reality. Truth is,
Conforming to the authority.
well, that is you following truth. Conforming, okay, if that's how you want to put it.
Well,
So
I don't think there is a authority of reality
okay,
like that.
you don't think there's an authority of reality? Okay.
Because that's presupposing a frame.
Yes. Okay. Presupposing a frame, so you're imposing something on it. Okay, you're really challenging me here. I like that. Okay. So,
Well, let me just reframe it.
okay,
Like
go.
maybe there is an implicit authority of reality, but it's
Mhm.
inaccessible to us. So
Okay.
like it's not a proper framing because like it's inaccessible. Like
It's a bit because my mind is still thinking about what I just wanted to say. I'm sorry. Let me just get it out, and then we
okay.
can. So to connect it to the framing, truth is that which frames, is that which makes the framing possible to begin with. It is that which needs no defense because it frames you before you frame it.
Isn't that goodness?
Well, I mean, goodness and truth are related, no?
Yes, but maybe that's the relationship. Like that goodness frames the truth.
That goodness frames the truth. So you're saying that goodness is a level higher than truth in this case.
Well, yes, like ethics before.
Ontology or epistemology. Ethics before epistemology.
Yeah, or ontology,
Yeah.
like yes, the only way to make sense, right, is by valuing something, right? By lifting something up, and the lifting, what you're lifting up
Yeah.
is that which generates the truth,
Okay.
right? Because that is forming your participation, right? So that's the organizing principle of in which truth exists.
Yes. Because if you want, the only way to frame anything to begin with is to have value, to care, right?
Right.
To care. If you don't care, you're not going to frame. And that's why goodness comes first and then truth comes second. Well, second.
Well, it's not second.
Yes, second. Yeah. That's
No, like it's instantly, right? Like
yeah.
not,
It's
it's not
instantaneous. They're
separate.
one. They're one. They're
The
one in
one,
this.
yes.
Yeah. They're one.
And then beauty follows from that too,
Tell
right?
me about that. Yeah.
This is yeah. I haven't explored this thinking too much, right?
Mm.
But the beauty
Mm.
is how the world organizes it within those two things, right? So you have the goodness, right, which is basically the light that shines, right?
Mhm.
And then the truth is revelation within the shining, right? Or is the process by which the revelation occurs, right? Because that's the resonance, right? And then the beauty is the way to understand what you're seeing effectively, right? Because if, like, how do you know what is revealed, like what that is, right? Apart from whether it's correct or not, right? Like it needs to fit in, right? And I think the beauty is related to the fittedness, right? There's a conformation to I don't know what it's conforming to, but
There's a confirmation, but there's an element beyond that it's not just conforming, because then everything is beautiful, because everything is beautiful, of course, but
has the capacity for beauty. Like
has the
it's not
capacity for beauty,
right. That's depending on what you value again, right?
Doesn't beauty have a guiding aspect to it, in the sense that beauty can also guide you to the goodness? It's not just
beauty guides you to expression or participation, yes, right? And participation is that by which revelation occurs, right? Because it provides contrast and revelation, right? So that's the integration of time in there.
Let me just, because you said one thing that really blew my mind in a good way, that goodness is the light, valuing is the light, and now I'm kind of seeing valuing and ethics in a totally different way now. Because it's very true that it is the valuing is the light by which you see, then truth is the framing that comes out of that light. And let me internalize this first. So when I love a child, when I love my child, I don't have a child, but theoretically, when I'm have agape towards my child, that is light. Not light? You wouldn't say so.
Well, that's beautiful.
Okay.
That's hopefully true, right?
Okay.
And that's participating in the good, right?
Yeah.
And then inheriting from the good, light shines through you, like
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. So agape, exactly, absolutely. Agape is when the light of the good shines through you towards the child.
Yes.
Truth.
And right, like not only that, right? Like I think there's also the component of reception, right? So there's the seed in the child that the light shines upon. Like I think that connection needs to be made. Else it's a perversion.
Okay. Because then it's violence. Then it's okay. So, but what does the seed? So the reception is why did you make that point? What's important about that point? I didn't
Well,
see.
because that's part of being true, I guess, right?
The
Because if
reception is part of
yeah,
it.
if you're shining a light, like I can just take a big stage light and shine it in your face, right? And I can say, look, dude, this is the brightest light you'll ever see. Like
I
it's
have a friend who
amazing.
does that. I have a friend who does that. Yeah,
And
with
and
religion.
and then it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yes. I know what you mean now. Okay. It's almost like this shining it.
And this is forbidden knowledge, effectively, right? Like
Mhm.
if you shine the light upon a seed that isn't ready or whatever, or like a really small plant, like you might
Burn it.
block it out, right? Yeah, like but you might traumatize it in such a way that it will grow away from the light, and that like
Yeah,
it can never go back to it.
I've personally experienced this. I mean, personally experienced this in religious people, basically shocking me with a lot of values which I absorbed, and it was too much. I think this is what you're talking about. So I came to
Right,
the
like
conclusion.
it doesn't really matter what you do with it, right? But the problem is that there can like you get presented with something, right? And if you don't have the grounding, right, like you don't have fertile ground within you,
you fall apart.
to integrate that, right? And now we go back to one of these words that I use when, like, if you don't have the capacity for integration, then like you're not going to receive what is being sent. And we can bind that back to you writing whatever you're writing on paper, right? Like that's the problem, right? Like you're shining a light, but like people aren't able to receive the light for various reasons, right? Like one is because they're not standing where you stand, but the other one is because they can't.
So that's when I publish what I write, you mean? Or is it when just
well, yeah, if you're trying to give it to an audience, right? Like any audience.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let me just try to make sure that we're on the same page. I want to use a concrete example just to make sure that this is what you're talking about. So, for example, for me, when I'm just sitting there, and I suddenly realize, okay, what is this? This is beautiful. This being, this capacity to exist, to experience, to see. It's something so valuable that I cannot ever begin coming to conformity with it. And then I look around my room and I see the mess in my room, and I look at the mess in my life, and I look at the mess in my heart, and I look at my mess everywhere else. Start getting overwhelming and demotivating. Would you say this comes close to what you were referring to, with the light burning the plant away?
Yes, actually. So there's a couple things that I want to unpack, right? So you're connecting valuable with beautiful.
Yes.
And like I don't think that beautiful things are valuable.
Okay.
Like they're valued, right? But this, like in the Eastern Orthodox tradition, right? Like if you got this revelation or thing, you're supposed to let it go, right? Like
Yeah. Okay.
you're not supposed. And when I hear something valuable, I hear, maybe this is me, right? But like it's treasured, right? Like it's you want to capture it.
You want to have it.
You want to have it. Right. That's what I hear when I hear
Yes.
valuable.
You heard correctly, actually. You actually heard quite correctly. You actually heard quite correctly right there.
And
go on.
and then, right, you say something strange, right? Like I cannot come into conformity, right? So that says a couple things to me. It's like, okay, like there's many beauties, right? Like there's not just this one beauty. So why are you conforming to this beauty, right? Like is this just because like you get the sense that it's in your grasp, or like what privileges this beauty over all the other beauties?
It's not the privilege of this beauty over other beauties. It is the reminder that there is beauty and that I don't deserve it. That I don't deserve where I am right now. That I am too...
Okay, but like, so what?
Well, no, there isn't, because there is a sense of duty towards it. And if I don't honor that sense of duty, then what kind of a piece of shit am I?
You have a sense of duty towards the beauty?
Not towards the beauty, towards whatever gave me this, towards just the fact that you exist, that just the fact that you are. It is worth honoring. It is worth acting in accordance with this amazing thing. Yeah, now that I'm speaking of it, maybe I'm not so clear in my thoughts of what I mean. I think, okay, let me just be completely open. I start relating it to God, of course, but it's a very abstract relationship. So it's like, okay, you exist, you're conscious. This is fragile. I'm just gonna talk right now. This is fragile. This is valuable. This is a gift. You need to be clean for it. What else is there? There's so much that you need to be doing that you aren't doing. You're ungrateful for it. What else is there? There's also this drive, and I don't know why it's there. Maybe it's programmed since I was a child to, I guess I have this attitude towards the people I like, for example, that the people I like, that, okay, I like this person, I need to please them. I need to make them happy. I need to do this. I need to do that. And so I see that I am in this great position and I want to give back. Does that make sense now? I see this gift and I want to give back. And it's not that I want to give back. It's more so that I feel I should give back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
okay. So yeah, I'm wondering how to approach this, right? So first of all, is this in the experience or in a reflection?
No, it's in the reflection.
Okay.
It's a good question, actually. Very good question. If I weren't reflecting, I don't think I would have this thought.
Okay. So what's happening in the experience?
Oh, wow. Very, very good question. I'm free. One thing, I'm free.
Okay.
I'm free from yesterday. I'm free from tomorrow. It feels like I'm in the right place. It doesn't matter if I want it or I don't want it. It's just correct. This is already good enough. It's not correct, not correct. It's good enough, I would say. That this is good enough in a certain sense. In fact, even more than good enough.
You're fulfilled.
Fulfillment, yeah. There's a sense of fulfillment, yes.
Okay.
There's a sense of fulfillment, but also there's a block that somehow the reflection collapses in and I can't go deeper.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So that's a lack of surrender.
A lack of what?
Surrender.
Yes, a lack of surrender, which I somehow see as protecting myself from falling apart, from forgetting my responsibilities.
Well, but yeah, like you would fall apart.
Yes.
Like that is literally what surrender would mean, right? So
Yeah.
that's correct. Like that's you dying, right? And then like if you choose to go that way, you have to have faith that you're gonna be reborn out of that death into a better version of you.
Yes. I'm very distant from it right now at this present, but there's this hope, because I'm just thinking right now. So the reason, something that's kind of reconnecting me with it or reconnecting me with my hunger for it, is this confrontation I need to have with my boss in the coming days. I'm terrified of being criticized, and I think this is a fear of death, a fear of ego death, in a certain sense. And it's almost like I want to accelerate it. Like I want it to happen sooner than that moment, so that by the time I'm there, I'm already reborn. I'm not that person anymore. And I had this point during the day today where I realized, okay, the most fulfilling life you can live is that don't centralize the future or the past. Centralize how you're working on the vertical, not the horizontal anymore. Working on your character, refining your doing goodness, worship, all of these things, reflection, and just sharpening your eye, sharpening your inner eye, sharpening your soul to that's a bit extreme language, but just sharpening your perception by working on your character, by becoming more virtuous. And you put that in the center on the short run, and on the long run, knowing God. So, or rather unknowing God. So I think I went a bit too far off topic. Went in a very,
Yeah,
very,
we're away from truth.
very strange, very strange direction. Sorry about that.
But I can bind it back for you, right?
Yeah. We need to
So if we go back to this experience, right? Like,
yeah.
so what you're effectively describing is a letting go of worries, right?
Mm.
But then you're still holding on to part of yourself, whatever that is, right? Which is like maybe necessary, but
Mm.
at least really normal, right? So
Yes.
and
And
then
surrender, just being confronted with the pit, with the
yeah,
edge.
but like yeah, like it's it's a natural reaction. I think it's a good reaction, right? Like if you walk up to the edge of the mountain and you see
Yeah.
the pit, then yeah, you should at least slow down, if not turn around, right?
Yeah.
And I've had many experiences, right, that I come back to the same place and I just walk past it, right? I'm literally where the pit would have been, right? But I'm then on solid ground, right? So there's an element where there's readiness as well, right? It's like yeah, maybe you should listen in some sense. It's like yeah, like you're not supposed to go there, but you're still supposed to broaden the
Yeah.
base of the mountains so that it can point up higher.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and then what follows from that is that you reflect, right?
Yeah.
And now the question is, and let's introduce truth back into this. Like, what would be a truthful reflection?
A truthful reflection is that if I let go, I wouldn't be responsible anymore. Because letting go in that moment means acknowledging that I'm too tired for this, that this is just not what I want to do. And
No, hold on.
yeah.
Like, I don't think that means that at all. Like, I think now you're conflating a bunch of things.
No, but I've done it before, and that was the outcome. But maybe it was false.
Okay, so now you're preempting your revelation. Like, oh, I don't want to have the revelation because I already know what the revelation is, and it's like you really think that there's a revelation there if you already know it? Like,
yeah, you make a point. You make a point. I mean, maybe if I surrender to because
but you're diverging, right? Because you're giving me an answer of the outcome, and I'm looking for the process. I'm not interested in the outcome.
okay.
Right? Because I said truthful, right? So you have an experience, right? And did you? Yeah, you were talking about your obligation towards the beauty or towards the other people, right? So there's a sense of obligation that follows from your experience, and so then it's like, well, what would it be like to be true to that obligation?
To do what you're supposed to do. To do your duty.
I agree, but I don't want to get concrete, right? But okay, there's an obligation, right? So I don't know, like I walk on the street, I step on the street and I almost get run over, and I have this revelation, like that's a bad idea. What's my obligation to that?
don't take better care when you step on the street next time.
Okay, well that's a personal thing, right?
Okay.
So that one is pretty straightforward, right? Because like there's a lesson for me to be learned there,
Mhm.
and maybe there's a higher level thing. It's like, oh yeah, like dude, you're not paying attention to the world around you, and like you need to just pay attention more, because like you're
Pay
gonna
more
die,
attention. Pay more
right?
attention. Yeah.
Right. So there might be a stacking, right? Like this Peterson talks about is like, where's the error? Right? Like,
Yeah. Systematic error. Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
But then like, okay, but that revelation also has consequences for the people around me,
Mm.
right? Like there's also an obligation that goes to other people. But like,
Mhm.
does that mean that I have to call everybody in my phone?
No. That's not what I meant.
No,
That's not,
but
yeah.
no, I'm serious, right? Like this is not a joke. Like, because
Yeah.
we're trying to get at what would be truthful, right? Like what would be a truthful behavior of mine where I do take responsibility.
You're talking in the general sense or the specific sense? So in my
Well,
specific,
I'm making the example because we get something to grab, but I'm looking for the principle, like, because I need to follow a principle here.
yeah. What's the principle by which I know what is truthful in this situation when I'm there? How do I assess? What's the method of assessment? Well, in my case, I look at everything I've been avoiding, everything which I think I should be doing, and I just do it. For example,
Yeah, but that's not an option. Like that's lying to yourself. Like,
yeah, I'm just realizing right now that's just repeating the same problems again, that you're just taking up what you think you should do and doing that.
well, but also you can't do that.
Why can't you
Like
do that?
that's because you can't. Like you're a limited being and you can't fix all your mistakes.
You can fix
That's not an
one of them
option.
at least. You can fix one of them at least.
Well,
Well, at least
but
there's
then
the
you're not being
acknowledging.
truthful again,
Okay.
right? Like,
Mm.
because then you're lying to yourself. You're like, oh, I'm going through all of the mistakes, and then you fix one. Like that's like, I'm not saying you
Yeah.
shouldn't do that or whatever, but
No.
I'm saying
Yeah.
like your description doesn't fit what's happening.
Hmm. Well,
So,
that's usually just the impulse. Like
yeah,
at that
that's
moment.
the impulse, right? But the problem is that you're telling it to me now, right? So you have this idea that that's what you're doing,
Mm.
but I'm telling you you're not doing that. Like that's impossible to do.
Yeah, maybe I mean, it makes sense why everything is still the same and some things haven't changed, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you were doing that, things wouldn't be the same.
Things
That
wouldn't
like
be the same. Exactly, things wouldn't be the same. And the thing is, I just go back to blaming myself, that I am some evil, spoiled brat who just doesn't
right.
know how.
So let's stay away from that part, right? Like let's stay
Yeah.
stay away from the things that we're not doing. Like let's go back to what's the principle that we need to follow, right?
Yeah.
So we can't be our own redeemer. Like that's what we concluded, right? Like you basically said, I want to redeem myself, right? And it's like, okay, that doesn't work. Like that's not an option.
I have a sense this is heading towards Christianity right now.
Well,
Yeah.
like I'm not heading anywhere. Like
Yeah.
the logos is heading somewhere, but I'm trying to point out,
Okay.
right?
Let me play along with this. Let me see where it's heading for me. Like I'm there, having this experience. I'm not worth it. I have all of these things to do, and I make the decision. Okay.
No. Why are you saying that? Like you
What?
keep saying that. Like that's just an idea that you have in your head. Like, are you really not worthy? Like how would you know?
Yeah. That's actually just a programmed idea I have in my head. It's yeah.
Yeah, but like so
Mhm.
like don't say that. Like because
Yeah.
that's a lie. Like you
Well,
don't
thank you.
know.
I really appreciate it that you're saying that.
No,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that I say that you are worthy, right? But
Mm,
I'm
mm,
just
mm.
saying that you can't make that statement
Yeah,
because you
you can't
don't
make that
know,
judgment. You cannot make that judgment. Absolutely true.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say the same thing for your responsibility towards yourself, Like you don't know the level of responsibility towards yourself, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there might be a case where what you're saying is correct, right? Like you can do the thing, you can do a self-redemption, right? Like because the ground level is like the ground is already laid, and all you have to do is plant the seed, right? So that might be an option, but it might also not be an option, right? So it's not a given answer, right? Like you have to get this straight, right? Like it's not a one size fits all solution, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the same goes to other people, right? Like maybe if I'm in a family where everybody's crossing the street, I should call everybody and tell them, and they'd be amazingly grateful. They're like, oh, I don't know why I didn't see that. Like now you tell it to me, it's like that's the most obvious thing in the world, and I'm going to do that straight away, and they're going to be safe for the rest of their lives, right? Like that's an option, right? Like there might also be an option that they say, who are you with your self-righteous whatever, right? And
Yeah.
or they're already doing it, and I'm not contributing by like having my salvation story shoved in their face, right? Like so there's different relationships which require me to act differently, right? So if we go back, right, and we visit what's the principle, well, the principle is that you become the person that knows when to execute which of the options, right? Which is
Yes.
wisdom, effectively, right?
Yes. 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 And I think the reason why the impulse heads in this direction of action, of just assuming that I just need to do what I think I need to do, is because I think that wisdom will be achieved by this experience of acting on what I think is my duty, whether or not it is my duty. I think I have this understanding in my head, come to think of it, but that I don't want to head too deep into that unless you want
Okay,
to.
so you have a fantasy, and then you
I
say,
wouldn't call it a fantasy, I'd call it a nightmare, but yeah.
well, yeah, but like
Yeah.
it's a fantasy, it's something that you made up, and you say, well, if I execute what I made up, then I become wise, which
That's
would
the thing. I don't think I made it up. At that moment, I'm convinced this is what I'm supposed to do. That's the problem. That sometimes I'm actually convinced that X, Y, or Z is what I'm supposed to do.
everything that's in your head you made up. Okay, like
All of your thoughts you made up.
yes,
You have no clue how liberating that is. But
right, like there's when we're talking about truth, right? Like there's things in your head that you chose to align with for whatever reason, right? And like it's all fantasies, and like the fantasies might be true, right?
yes,
They might be actually corresponding to reality,
yes, yes.
but they also might not, right? Like,
Yeah.
or
It's
they
true.
might be partially true,
It's true.
which is probably
Yeah.
most of your
I think I have this totalitarian conception
right.
somehow that actually I actually observe myself doing it. That sometimes, okay, I have this thought and I'm afraid of it, and I tell myself this is just a stupid thought, and then the next day it's proven wrong. Great, but then the opposite happens. I have a scary thought, I dismiss it, then it comes true, and then I get this totalitarian reaction that okay, all of your anxieties are true.
Mhm.
This happens very often with me. That the truth becomes a matter of what is the worst case scenario. But that's a psychological thing, not a logical thing.
Well, yeah, but like Plato goes in the end of book 5, he goes into I don't know what the words. Well, there's many words because there's many translations, but like there's no knowing, right, which he defines as in accordance to being, right. So you, if you participate with being in a truthful manner, then you know it, right.
Yes.
So it's not knowing in the sense that you have something. It's knowing in the sense that you can access the revelation.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Right, and then you have the realm of opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right, and
Mm-hmm.
and the realm of opinion is related to the instantiations of being, right. So he's talking about beauty, right. So like I know that whatever, like this painting behind me is beautiful,
Yes.
because my friend made it, and like I have all of these associations with it, right? But I don't have a connection with beauty as such,
Yes.
right? And because I don't relate the instance of beauty with beauty as such, I don't know beauty. I don't,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Well, I'll be honest. When we say beauty as such, I wonder if I get what you're talking about, because
Yeah, who says I know what I'm talking about?
yeah, that's the thing. For me, when I say
But like if you go to the definition of knowing that I was using, right?
Mm,
And I think beauty is one of the most difficult ones, right? Because
mm,
like it's like the goodness is difficult in one way because it's up, right? So
mm,
so it's unattainable.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but it's really simple in another
yeah,
way,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then truth is more a skill, right? Like it's an attunement,
yeah.
right? And beauty has to do with the symphony of multifaceted uh, participation in a whole or whatever. Right? I don't even know.
The harmonizing of the parts with the whole.
Right,
That's beauty. The
right,
harmonizing that also indicates the whole at the same time.
right. And
Mm,
and so well
mm,
now if you get this mental picture where you zoom out, right, where you see the whole and the parts contributing in the whole. Like maybe the best way to do that is a Nazi parade, right? So you have all the soldiers that are in perfect unison, and then you have the music, and you have the lights, and you have everything, right? And it's all coming together, right? So that's beauty,
mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm.
Or maybe that's a subset of beauty, like who knows? But but that is beauty, right? And that's powerful because it moves people, right? Like
Yes,
people are moved when they
yes,
see that.
yes.
So um, but to know what's behind that, right?
Mm,
And to be able to abstract what makes that beautiful to what makes something else beautiful is really hard. And like I don't have a good relationship to beauty. Like I can tell you that immediately, right?
mm.
But I have a sense in which it expresses itself. But I'm like I probably can't say I'm not looking for it, but I'm looking definitely at a subset of it. All right, like
Mm.
um. So why did I go into beauty? Oh yeah, because you said you didn't have a grasp of it, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
it's not the grasp, right? It's effectively it's an awareness of your participation in the revelation or something like that's basically as much as I can dare to say about that.
yeah. Well, what I did get from that is practically that you cannot, quote unquote, have beauty in any faculty of knowing that you have as a limited being. You can see instantiations of beauty. You can participate in beauty by being dragged out by beauty. But to know beauty itself, that is too bold a claim. All you can do is know how much you don't know beauty.
Right. Because like it's always bigger, right? You can't
It's always
contain
bigger.
beauty.
You cannot grasp the whole.
Right.
You can have an all at once intuition how much you don't know the whole. And
Right. But
that's,
but also you don't need to.
you don't
Like,
need to. It's nice if you do, but you don't need to. Yeah.
well, I don't know if it's nice, maybe.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it might blind you and destroy you. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's nice to know that. Like I don't know if
Mm.
that's a thing that we should pursue.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like and I'm just gonna say flat out don't pursue it unless you have a reason to.
Yeah. Rumi would agree with you.
Right. Well,
Rumi,
good on
you
him.
know Rumi. Yeah.
I'm in good company there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
No.
but like I think Plato would agree with me, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I like we go back to this forbidden knowledge and stuff like that, right? Like I don't like people just can't, right? Or they're not at the place in life where they should, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's two problems, right? Like that's not one problem, that's two problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Either they don't have the capacity for that, or they do, and if they catch sight of it now, it'll burn them alive, and they won't be ready to.
Right. And then if we go with this other problem, right, which is analogous to your problem, is Moses comes down from the mountain. He had his revelation from God, like he wrote it down, and then he's down, and what does he do? Well, he sees reality and he drops his shit. Like, you
Yeah.
think, like that's the first action, right?
Yeah.
And that to me signifies it's like, well, okay, like you have this divine revelation, but like it's useless. Like
Yeah.
you can't use it because people are not participating with you. They're not cooperating.
Let me, yeah, that's profound. That's profound. Let me just give me a second to internalize that a little second. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This ties into why you might not want to take a peek in that direction, because if you come back, you're gonna lose your shit. You might lose your shit. Maybe you can. Maybe you won't. But maybe you will.
Well, but yeah, but like, there's losing your shit, but it's also like it's also in Plato, right? You go outside of the cave, you're like, oh, awesome, right? And then you go back in, nobody will believe you. You'll be ostracized. Like the whole of book 6 is like, uh, all if you're a true philosopher, all of the people are gonna corrupt you, right? Like, and
Yes.
when you're corrupted, you're effectively gonna be a mad genius, which means that you're the most evil person that you can exist, right? Because you have all of this capacity, but you're gonna misapply it, right? And and then it's like, well, like people want to use you, right? Like people can't understand you, right? So you're effectively gonna give up, and you're gonna like separate yourself from participation with these people because like you can't, right? Like,
Yeah.
which is actually pretty much the story that I live. But but you see the problem,
Yeah. You basically alienate yourself from people.
right? And what does Moses do, right? He sets up Aaron as his voice. He already did that before, right? And then he gathers a bunch of elders, right? And then the elders, so there's this trickle down, this diluting, this levels of reality in which a translation happens into the participation until it enters the level of daily life effectively, right? Which would be all the sheep. And all of that goes wrong, by the way, right? Because they all don't get to enter Israel, right? Like so like even that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So just when you try to take that role, just realize the futility of that exercise.
This is reminding me of something actually Plato said, that you don't get to choose this. So violence is when the leader decides, I'm going to go up the mountain. When you try to go up the mountain and you're not called toward the mountain, it's like raising yourself up to a position that wasn't meant for you. No?
Well, I think if you go up the mountain, God will just burn you, right? Like you get to see his face and then you die,
Yeah.
right? Like that's what happens when you go up the mountain, right? Like and either you're leading, right? And so you're inheriting authority from Moses or well, the update would be Jesus, right?
Mhm.
So you're doing things in Jesus's name, right? Which would mean that you're properly aligned within the hierarchy, or you're doing it in your own name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I meant. That's exactly what I meant. That's exactly what I meant.
But if you're doing it in your own name, you're not going up the mountain. Like
You're
you
not
just
going up the mountain.
you're
Right.
the mountain.
You're the mountain in place. Yeah.
Yes,
I think I meant more this, that you're going up in your own name, not in the name of somebody else, not as a service, but rather as self-service. That
right.
egoic journey.
And like this is a thing that I wanted to explore. Maybe we can explore that in relation to truth because we
Mhm.
bind it back to truth, right? So what would it be? Well, I still don't think people understand what names mean, and I don't think that I know what a name means, right?
Yeah.
But uh, if I do something in your name, I use your authority, right? So in some sense, also the responsibility goes to you, right? Like I'm not
Yeah.
responsible.
Okay.
So I am the agent, right?
Mhm.
But I'm expressing your agency,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so when we start looking at Christ in that way, right, like, and doing things in Christ's name and invoking his name, then
Mhm.
things start to make a bit more sense. Um, and there was people who identified with Moses, right, or with King David or whatever, right? So there's this different authorities, right, or these different principles, because that's
Mhm.
effectively what they are, right? They're principalities um, that put you in a truthful relationship with God or with reality, or both, obviously. But um, and then the question is, well, what is true, right? Like, what does it mean to be truthful? And then, like, what would it mean to be truthful in Moses' name? Well, like that would mean that you hold his commandments and you follow all of the sacrifice stuff and the festivals and all the things, right? So you and the circumcision, right? So you'd embody yourself in a liturgy, effectively, right? You're in a story, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That is imitating his story,
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah. It's striking me as very similar to faithfulness. You're faithful to his story. You're putting your pieces where he put his pieces, so that you
Right,
can conform to the pattern where his pieces are laid.
right.
Yeah. So that's truthfulness for you. That's what you're calling truthfulness.
Well, so you were talking about the thing, right? That holds the story,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you're being true to the name, right? But that name has been granted authority from God through
Mhm.
revelation,
Mhm.
right? So then it's inheriting the goodness from the revelation in the name.
So there's the goodness, and then there's Moses, the story of Moses and the structure around it. And then there's doing things in the name of Moses. And when you do that in the name of Moses, when you inherit the agency of Moses by putting your pieces in the right place as Moses, that's when you're inheriting the goodness. That's when it goes straight down.
Right.
This is what you meant by that.
Yeah, that's the way that I look at it.
Yeah. So this is truthful. So basically, what I meant by faithfulness is what you mean by truthfulness. And truth.
Well, truth is within his revelation, right?
Yeah, truth is not something you can have in the end. It's like
No,
beauty.
you're being true to something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I can be true to wanting to kick your ass, right?
Yeah.
But that like what does that say about my relationship with reality?
Yeah.
And so like I might that might be also right relationship with reality, right? But then it would have to inherit goodness from somewhere to
Okay.
justify it.
So you can say, you can define it more abstractly. Truthfulness is being true to something, is acting in a way that inherits the goodness from it. But that's, yeah, but what do I do with that? That's what I'm asking
And
myself.
authority as well, right?
And well, authority is going to come naturally anyway from it. I mean, I want to translate this to something practical. I agree. I agree. It's just what I was. So obviously, I was confusing truth and goodness together. I was equating them, and they should be like one, not equal.
Well, this is what a lot of Christians do, right?
Yeah.
Like they said they're putting it all in Jesus, and it's like, okay, but that's not helpful, right?
Yeah.
Because that's confusing the discernment. So you like, this is the problem, is that yes, right? Like that's true, right? Like in Jesus, goodness and truth are combined and beauty, right? And he's the source of them as well, but it's not helpful.
Yeah. What does it do for me?
Like you just collapse 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions in one, and yeah, like those dimensions are useful because they give discernment and inform action.
I'm trying to extract something symbolic that can connect me to this discernment a bit more deeply. So personally, the way I am true to God is by prayer, by sincere prayer. That I think that the sincerity also plays a huge role here. You're not just true with your body; you're also true with your heart. Because the truth of the body, being true with your body, is nothing. It's a stepping stone.
Well, yeah, like you could say that the truth of your body is in accordance with matter.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. And then there's the truth of your heart. And I'm just thinking that that's,
And truth of the mind.
yeah.
Right?
The truth
So
of the
I
mind.
think truth
Yeah.
of the heart would probably relate to goodness, and truth of the mind would be to
Truth.
truth or logic, right? Like something like, because it would be it yeah, like, yeah, not truth but being true or something.
Being true. Yes. Being true. Okay. So the truth of the heart is goodness. Truth of the mind relates to whatever we call being true. And then there's the truth. Yeah. So now I'm completely reframing truth right now. It has no longer anything to do with a statement or a correspondence, even. That's like far removed from.
Well, those statements are expressions of what is true to you, hopefully, because else you're a liar. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then the correspondence works in this way, that it's true to me. It's true to what I'm saying. It's true to
Yeah.
the gestalt that I'm trying to say. In that sense, the correspondence then.
Yes, that's what you're expressing.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of conversations about that, right? Because like that, if you accept that as limitation,
Yeah.
right? Like in some sense, your responsibility for the receiver also falls away. right? So you can say, you can just speak truth, and they can either handle it or they can't, right? And then you can speak a new truth that you think they can handle, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, that's a big one. That's a really big one. It puts a huge responsibility, because now you're not, because you're carrying something that is not yours and representing it to other people, and you better damn represent it in a good way.
Or not, right? You can
Speaking
just
for it.
refuse.
Yeah,
You
you're
can,
speaking for it. Yeah.
yeah, but you can just refuse, right? Because like in church, right? Like you are only supposed to talk about what is revealed to you,
Mm.
right? So you can only take responsibility for the things, the authority that you've inherited. Because if you haven't inherited it, then how can you profess it?
My God, that's a very, very big thing. it's it's hitting hard right now. It's really hitting hard. Why do people talk to begin with? Right. So you must be a very careful talker. I think that's why you correct me so much when I'm speaking, because I notice that whenever I give metaphors, you're always disagreeing. You're always like, you're always making sure.
I've had a lot of
Mm.
revelations, right? And some of them are full, most of them are partial, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't fully explored them. They seem right, but like I haven't looked at the body, right, or the gestalt. Like
Mm.
I'm going to use body because so I don't know it. Like I'm not intimate with it. Like there's some things that I am intimate with, but like there's things that I'm not intimate with. But like that doesn't mean that I can't intuit it. Like that just means that I don't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's
So I
still,
guess
it's still far away from you. It's still far away from
right.
you. You still just have a
But
sense that there's something there, but it's not in you yet.
right, but and this is where people get really frustrated with me, right? Like this
Mm.
stuff, like saying what's true is one thing, but saying what's false, that's easy. Because everything that doesn't fit, right, is wrong, or I'm wrong. Like that's the two options. And like
Mhm.
I'm just like, no, I'm no longer wrong. Or like if I'm wrong, the chance that I'm wrong compared to the chance that you're wrong is like it's not even a fair game.
Mhm. And that's why you say you speak from authority sometimes, because you
Right,
know whatever you're saying that's coming from an authentic source.
right. And people don't like that, right?
Well, of course, I don't like that, but that, I'll be honest with you. I'm questioning now. I'm trying to look back and see which of my, I don't even know if I've ever had any authentic revelations before. I'm not sure. I don't know.
No, I
Maybe I
think
have, maybe
no,
not.
you have to, else you're insane. Like,
That's reassuring. Well, that's reassuring, because I have a tendency to doubt myself very, because see, this is exactly what I meant. You just shared something that's very, very beautiful, that I find very beautiful. I hope I'm using my words carefully. I find it beautiful what you just shared, that yes, this is valuable what you're receiving, and you want to represent it properly. And so I snap to the reality where, okay, you're never going to do this again. You're not worth it. You don't even have the skills for this. So just cut it off completely. And then you come and correct me and you say, no, 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 no. You always have revelation. Yeah.
right, but the revelation in what name? Right? Like
In what
that
name?
that's
Yes. In what name?
that's where you have to be careful,
The
right?
discernment,
And
the
like
discernment is difficult. Yeah, the discernment is difficult. That's I wanted to get to the point of discernment. How do you discern?
right, and this is where like I hold option for being wrong, right? Because
Mhm.
like I might still be not acting in the right name,
Mm.
right? Because you can't see the water that you swim in, right? So
Yeah.
so I might like I believe that I'm working in the name of Jesus, right? But there's still things that I struggle with in the Bible, right? So it's like, what does that mean, right? Like, does that mean that I'm in conflict, or does that mean that I haven't had the full revelation yet, right? And I'm going on faith that I'm like, no, like the revelation will come, like because I'm true, right?
Yes, because you're faithful to it. You have I see your point. I see what you're trying to say, and I have a sense that when you say revelation, like every time revelation happens, you see a gestalt which you never saw before. You start seeing how many parts are linked together behind the scenes.
Right.
That's what you mean by revelation. in this
But yeah,
case.
but like Vervaeke talks about this, right? Like
Yeah.
people started telling me that I acted differently, right? So he had revelations that he didn't realize that he had, right? So like it's you don't have to see the gestalt in order to have a revelation.
Right.
I think
Right,
this is
right,
this
right, right.
this is where Vervaeke goes completely wrong,
Yes,
actually.
yes. That's actually very helpful. That's very helpful that you don't. That's true. True.
Like I think Vervaeke doesn't see the gestalts, actually, and that's why he's inheriting revelations from other people, right? Like other philosophers,
Yeah.
and he's not owning, he's not participating in his own revelation, right? Like he's literally loyal to their names, like he said it, like he used the words.
Yeah. So he's loyal to their words, but not loyal to their. Well, he
No,
had.
he is, right?
Yeah.
He's just a hypocrite, right? Like he has different loyalties and they're
Mhm.
conflicting, and he's not resolving the conflicting loyalties.
Okay.
So he's just living a a conflict. He's a conflicted person because he's not unified under one name.
So what I'm hearing you say is that he basically has these many systems that are not meant to fit together.
They're impossible.
They're
Like
impossible.
I can just, yeah, I can prove
Yeah.
it.
This is basically like being a Christian who prays the Muslim prayer. No, this is like you're taking something from a very complex system and putting it in a system where it doesn't belong. It's just going to destroy everything. It's not going to make there. Jesus talks about this. I think he says when they ask him why are the disciples not fasting, but we are fasting, and then he says you need to put that. You don't put a piece of unstrung cloth in old garment. First you need to shrink it and then you put it in a new garment, otherwise it tears everything apart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're conflating three things, right? So
Yeah.
the first thing that he says is when the people are with the bridegroom, they celebrate, right?
Mhm.
And they don't fast. Like that's just
Right. That's what he
so
says. Yeah.
so, so that's
No,
that.
but he does say, okay, I don't know. I'm not an expert in the
No,
Bible.
but that's important, right? Like that's framing that breaks constraint, right?
Mm.
So that there's a time and place for everything, effectively, right? Ecclesiastes. Anyway, then he goes into the wineskins, right? So
Yes.
basically, you don't reuse old wineskins,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you don't
Yeah.
put new wine in old wineskins because
Yeah.
that's where they break, right? So you put new wine in new wineskins, right? So I think this is a reference to new followers of the faith, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and basically this is the on ramp discussion in some sense, right?
Mhm.
It's like you cannot use your dogmatic whatever bullshit that you guys are doing on these new people because it doesn't work. Like they
Mm.
need to have their own path. And then the other part is uh, when you patch a cloak, right, which
Mhm.
would be putting a new piece of cloth
Yeah.
on the old skin, right, and
Yeah.
then a piece of cloth is basically that which protects you, right?
Mm.
So in some sense that is a name, right? Like when I walk into another country and I show my passport, right? Like my passport protects me, right? Like in the name of my country, I am present,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So and then there's this cloak, right, which has this gap, right, and then they're trying to repair the gap, and it's like, well, you have new stuff that's not washed, and it's not like it has a different tension, right? Like after it's being used, then you can, it doesn't change in size anymore. Then you can put it on, right? So you need
Yes.
to account for that. So
Yeah.
that's the other one.
Yeah.
And that yeah that is referencing well, I guess integration, right? So you can't just replace, right? Like you just can't say, okay, like this was my minion, right? And now this other person is coming in, and like I'm just gonna put him in the same form, which is actually literally what I was saying, right? Like
Yeah, that's my point. That's why I mentioned it. That's exactly why I mentioned it. It's because it relates. I mean, the spirit of the whole thing is that you can't just put. Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I still love John very, very, very much. So it's very hard for me to see his faults. I see his faults in other places, but in terms of, well,
no, like I think it's really simple, right? So when John talks to whatever person, right, he talks to them and he gets enthusiastic. Well, so what does it mean to be enthusiastic? That means that your passions take over,
okay,
which means that your discernment decreases, and you're participating in a affirmation. Well, I'm using the word affirmation, but a confirmation bias.
Confirmation, confirming it, conforming it to yourself.
But like, I think the word affirmation is really important because I've been using that a lot lately, right? Like, because what is he doing? He's affirming his worldview,
yeah,
right? So what he's kind of doing what I'm doing, right? So he's talking to someone and then he's aligning whatever piece of his work with that person, right? And then there's a correspondence, right? But he's not doing that with his whole being.
he's only doing it with the parts that are right, not with the parts that are wrong.
No, he's doing it with what is functional in the moment.
Okay.
Right? And that's the problem, right? So he's drawing conclusions in a reciprocally narrowed frame that he doesn't have the capacity to integrate in the bigger frame. And now we go again back to agreement, right? What does it mean to agree? Right? So if there is an accordance with something that you know, then you recognize a intelligibility and you think that there's agreement, right?
Yeah.
If that then no longer is integrated, right? Well, if that is not integrated, then what are you doing, right? Like it doesn't fit in the higher.
You're just affirming yourself. You're just affirming yourself in this case. You're affirming a parasite that's growing right now, that's masquerading as something that's absolute or belongs to the whole, but doesn't actually belong to the whole.
Yeah, but like I would argue that most people are not fully integrated. I think it's necessary to not be fully integrated because I think it's something that you cultivate. Like it doesn't seem like a natural state of your mind to be integrated.
Can
like,
you even be fully integrated as a limited being?
Yes.
You keep changing. You can. Okay.
Right, but like you have to re-understand your concept of truth, right? Like so if like this is where accordance theory of truth has value, right? Like if being true is you being able to be in accordance with reality, right? But not in speaking, right? In being,
Yeah.
right? Or better that, like, in accordance with being, right? Because I don't think you need to be in accordance with reality, because, like, you need to be in accordance with a subset of reality, which is being.
Yeah.
And being is good, right? And so there's a way in which you can attune your relevance realization in your participation in such way that you always orient towards the right things, and you can optimize that, right? And then you can say, well, yeah, like, but you're still struggling, but it's like, yeah, but I'm doing the thing in the best way possible, right?
I'm true to it still. Yes, there's the fruit is not coming. Yes, there's a struggle, but at least I'm remaining coming back. I keep coming back.
Right, and like at a certain point, right, like, you also have to realize that your judgment about yourself and how you're in the world changes as a consequence of having the understanding of your participation in being, right? So how do you identify, right, with what you're doing? And we were talking about failure, right? And it's like, well, a failure is a failure in the frame of having mode, right? Like, I want to achieve the thing immediately in front of me. But if I integrate it in a narrative, the failure is just a step on the road.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, when do I suffer, right? Like, when is failure painful? If I am reciprocally narrow.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just like, okay, like, I'll whatever, right? Like, I'm just gonna get there anyway, then the failure is just not even relevant. And, like, I think this can be true for everything, right? Like, I got dumped in a relationship, and, like, I effectively could treat it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yeah, this wasn't going to happen, right? Like the way that everything was aligned wasn't able to manifest truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And therefore, what happened was good, so I should treat what happened as good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can believe that, but you have to. Like, I could have chosen a different way, right? Like, it's like, oh, I've been trying so hard, and I finally got somewhere, and now it broke, right? And I can get stuck on that forever if I want to. And so, what is truth, right? Like, is there truth in the way that I understand that situation? Because I think there is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the way that there's truth in that is, like, what is the way that I react that allows me to maintain my relationship to reality or God?
Yeah. 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 So by taking this as a stepping stone in the way, you're actually in conformity with the way things are. That is the through line, which is unfolding itself, which is still unfolding itself. You're giving it a chance to still unfold itself by accepting the failure that happened right in front of you.
But and even, I'm gonna make it more extreme, right? Like,
Yeah.
I should promote that failure. Like, I should want that failure.
Because it's not true to the picture that is really supposed to happen, to the destiny or
right, I was sinning, right? Like, I was in sin. I was in a situation that couldn't lead to goodness.
Okay. So you were saved from your own sin in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you see it that way, right, it's like, oh, like, like that disastrous thing is actually the best thing that could have happened
It
to me.
could have happened. Yeah.
I was like, oh, whoa, what? Like, that's just magic, right? Like, now you just flip flip your experience completely opposite.
It's almost as if when you have that truthfulness, these things just happen. No, you just they manifest for you when you're sort of oriented in that direction of truthfulness. Like, seek and you shall find.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. Like I am struggling with another part, which is vision. Right. Because like in well, right. There's an orientation, and like I have an abstract orientation, but like there's an orientation in the flesh as well, right? Like the flesh also needs expression, and I have a problem combining these two, right? But yeah, so the vision is that which drives you forward, right? Like so then that allows you to judge, right? Like that allows you to adjust within your orientation, because if you don't have that, then you're not aware of what's drawing you, right? And well, this goes probably back to beauty, right? Like in my not full relationship with beauty.
You lost me in this one.
Well,
So
the vision is hope, right? Like it's what appeals,
yes,
and
what
and that has to be expressed in beauty, right? Because it can't be in goodness or in truth. Like that doesn't make sense.
I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that. It does have to be in beauty this time. When
Right,
you're seeing,
and this is why it's difficult to put goodness as the first thing, right? Because now it's beauty drawing me forward. So like it's beauty first.
it's never the first thing in your perspective.
No,
Goodness.
no, it is like goodness is the first thing, or it should be the first thing in how I respond, right? Because that's where I get my judgment from. But it's insufficient to draw me forward, right? Because like 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 the goodness is drawing me out of the frame that I already have,
Okay.
right? Because the goodness constrains me with the truth, right? In a frame, right? So it reciprocally narrows, and then the goodness breaks you out again, right? So that I don't know. I don't fully understand what happens.
Yeah, because the way, because as limited beings, beauty is what breaks you out of the frame or shatters the frame for you.
Well, there's more things than that, but yes.
But yeah, one of the things, and of course, there's more things than that. But one of the things beauty is that it shatters the frame for you. That can either lead to wonder or horror in the end.
But I think beauty is a thing that you need to cultivate, just like truthfulness and goodness, right?
Yeah.
Your understanding of it. So I think fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Okay.
Like you don't have to cultivate fear. You see the distinction anyway. Like so there's a bootstrap, like
Yeah.
these highest principles, they're not available to people. Like you need to work for that. Like
Yeah, you need to work on them. Yeah, you need to work for them. Obviously, yeah. You need to
you need to
cultivate the
suffer
work.
for them.
You need to suffer for them, and that's what I meant when I catch glimpses. Maybe I'm not catching. It's arrogant to say that I'm catching glimpses, but when I experience something of something beautiful, and I recognize for a brief instant that there's this beauty, there's this goodness, and then this response of, I know that I need to suffer, and I think that's where the fear of living comes in then. But that's just a different topic right now.
Yeah, but again, right? Like what's your response? Right? It's like, is being good, right? And do you treat it as an aspiration, an inspiration, an aspiration? It's like you tasted of the fruits in the garden. Right? You don't know how much you tasted, but like you tasted of their reality, and so like you can see that as a calling, because like it is, like
It is a
it is.
calling. Yeah, it's a
And
calling.
so why would you treat it as a flaming sword?
That's the negative valence again.
Right.
That's the negative valence that speaks out in callings, warnings. It has a do it or else attitude towards it. That's the daemon, I'd say.
Well, yes. Like it but there's a reason. Like I guess I'm like, yes, it's a demon, but there's a reason behind the demon, right?
Yeah.
And I think the reason is that you don't have faith, right? Like you don't talk as if what happens to you is by the grace of God. Because like if you fully believe that, then like he chose to show it to you. So like who are you to say that you're unworthy if God showed it to you?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just the way I've been programmed to think about myself. Just an automated response of
Yeah, but who are you to challenge God's judgment? Like, because that's
well,
what you're doing.
I don't know God's judgment. That's the thing.
No, you are. Like you are challenging God's judgment by making your own judgment.
Yeah.
Like that is what making your own judgment is, right?
By
Like
assuming.
you're speaking from an authority that you don't have.
Oh yes, that's beautiful. Yes, it's very beautiful. That is very, very beautiful. That's that kind of shatter, well, not shatter, just knocks it in the head a little bit, because that part with authority, I'm not being true to God when I'm making this assumption. I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm just placing something on God that's not there to begin with.
Well, who knows if it's there or not?
Yeah.
It's not relevant. Like you don't get to decide. Like it's that simple.
Yeah.
It's not your place.
Yeah.
Like I have this when I speak to people, right? They tell me what I think. It's like it's not your place. Like
why are you speaking for me?
Like you have not a chance in hell to understand what I'm thinking. Because like I'm so specialized in my thinking that like it's not even an option to chase where I'm at for you. Like you'd have to dedicate your life to understand where I'm coming from at this point. No, I'm serious, right? Like
yeah, I know what you mean. I know.
So like what is the hubris in this move? Oh, I know what you're thinking, or I know what you feel. Like I do that to other people, right? But like I do it on really abstract levels, right? Like you're motivated by this spirit, right? Like I don't have to know what's happening in their head because I can see their expression, right? Like you're definitely embodying the spirit. Like I don't know why. Like I don't need to know what crazy things happen in your head that you're in that spirit. You're in that spirit. You either choose to remain in that spirit or you snap out of it, right? Like that's the proposition. And people can do that to me as well, right? Like they can say, well, you're in that spirit, and then I can say, oh yeah, oops, right? Like that's a sin. Like I shouldn't be in that spirit.
Yeah.
Like, but you can't say what's in my head, or you can't say why I'm angry. Like you can say I'm angry, but like you can say why. Like you have no clue why I'm angry. Sometimes I don't have a clue why I'm angry.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
I mean, you can't. That's the other person's mystery. You can't really go there.
no, but like even for yourself,
Yeah,
Like
even for myself, absolutely. Like you
like
can
like
know your own mysteries.
like when there's emotionally intense things happening, like my mind goes to all sorts of reasons, like explanations, right? It wants to explain, like it wants to understand.
Mm.
Like I recently trained myself. It's like, no, like that's just an excuse. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. You know, and this goes back to truth, right? Like what's relevant, right? Like what was relevant when I got dumped? Could it be repaired?
Yeah.
Like like was it generative to continue the participation in
Mm.
this way? And like even like no, right? And then the question is, well, could the participation have changed as a consequence of me identifying that that the participation was wrong? And the answer is yes, right? Like I believe that that could have happened, but I don't think I could have manifested that change.
Mhm.
Like I don't believe I had the capacity to exert the influence to make that happen.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And then, well, that's all that's relevant, right? Like you can give 5 million excuses of reasons like this didn't go
Yeah.
wrong or whatever. It's not relevant.
Yeah. The
Doesn't
more
matter.
important thing is the takeaway that you get out of it. How? What do I take out of this? What do I get from these emotions? What are they trying to? What is the relevance they're pointing to? That's it. Then you're done with it.
Well, the emotions that I'm having, right, is like missing, right? Like you're missing something that was there, right? That's no longer there. And so like now you got to do something with this uh mourning, right? Like it's literally mourning, right? Like
Mhm.
there's an image of the future, if not explicit, implicit,
Mm.
that died. Like
Yeah.
it's no longer a potential, which
Yeah.
you treat it as actual, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like what the fuck are you doing? Like why are you having this fantasy in your head that you're treating as actual when it's a conditional potential, right? And this is where binding comes in, right? So if you bind yourself by writing a contract or entering into a covenant with a god, for example, right? Like in his name, right?
Mhm.
You actualize, you concretize reality for yourself. Like you
Mhm.
put yourself under a constraint which is the rock upon which you build.
Yeah.
It's the cornerstone of your being.
Yeah. And that falls when that falls apart, like you have less ground to stand on, and you need to be ready to have. You need to have an alternative ground. That's what happened in my own story. Like I had a relationship story where that was the ground of everything. And when that fell apart, I know what you're talking about.
Right, but
I had to build everything from the start. So yeah.
right, but that was an improper cornerstone, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was an improper cornerstone.
Or and like the proper cornerstone is effectively where you bind your life to, literally. Like
Yeah.
it's life and death. Like if
Yes.
I cannot renounce this being because that's all I am. like there's no me outside of this
Yeah,
this
it
being.
goes to your core, sort of the very core of your being when you bind yourself to something
Right,
like this.
and that's how you can become a martyr. But like there's no other way to get to that place.
Hmm.
Right? And then well, is what you martyr yourself for generative, right? Because you could say that there's people that martyr themselves for the nation or whatever, right?
Mm.
Which they're not called martyrs, right? Like they're heroes or whatever, right? So like that's already defining that there's a lesser and maybe improper, right? Like you could say, well, all authority is from God, and they're, but you get into
Mm.
crazy things. But so there's a hierarchy in respect that these people get as well, right? From
Hmm.
all this. So to bind it back to truth a bit, you want to bind some things together, because I think the binding aspect is maybe a good thing to bind everything together with.
Let me see. Bind things together. Now we said a lot of things, but right now what's coming to mind? Yeah. So when you're truthful, you're not really knowing. You're actually unknowing quite a lot.
But that's just our misconception of knowing. Like we're misunderstanding what knowing means.
Yeah, we think knowing is having knowledge, whereas knowing is sort of actually to realize that you do not know. And in that realization, you actually become receptive because you make space for the new. And
Right, that's
how
what Socrates said, right?
True.
Like,
I mean, that's learned ignorance. That's learned ignorance, basically.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know.
I think it's reverence. Like, it's not learned ignorance. It's just reverence. Yeah, you revere the potential. Like it's not ignorance. Like it's literally not.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's not ignorance. Absolutely not. Yeah. It's the opposite of ignorance. It is the opposite of ignorance. It's
right. Like I said, like I know when I know things and when I don't know things. But when I don't know things, I still know, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like it's coming from a place of authority. Like it's
because when you don't know things, that's when you're receiving. That's
yes, and that's where humility comes in, right? So
yes,
like
exactly.
people don't understand this. They think I'm arrogant, right? But that just means that when I talk to them, I talk about things I know about, and therefore I'm almost always smarter than the person that I talk to, because I talk about things that I know about, right?
And the person is talking from their knowledge.
Right. But like when I step out of that realm that I know about, I become completely humble. Like I flip because I'm not the authority.
Yeah.
Like I cannot lead. I'm blind, and I know I'm blind, and I know that when I'm blind, I need to listen to other people, right? And I think that's what humility is. Like I think people misunderstand humility, right? Like I think humility is the capacity to put yourself in relationship to the other, which means that sometimes humility means that you should stand above them and condescend. Like I think that's part of humility. Like, and I think that people don't realize that.
Let me think about this one. It's an interesting perspective there. Yes.
Because you're humble in relationship to God. You're not humble in relationship to the person in front of you. Like that, because that's a misorientation. You're not supposed to orient against the person in front of you.
Yeah.
That's what fixes it.
Interesting. I need to process this one, but it's a very, very interesting way because it kind of gets you out of the problem of that, because you can't be humble to all people. Because if you are humble to all people, then you get eaten alive by the wolves.
And I think that's a sin. Like if you have authority, use the stupid authority. Like I don't understand. Like if you have authority and you're not using it, you're in sin. Like just flat out. Like you're a sinner. Like you can point towards the good, and you're not doing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like
because that's what authority is, right? Like authority flows from God. So like if
authority is responsibility. It's also like a duty. Is a duty
right
with the authority.
To those much has been given, much is required.
Much is required, yeah.
Right, and what if the person to most has been given, they're supposed to sacrifice the most?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Well, not unfortunately, like it seems
I
like
mean,
an iron law at this point, right? Like it's like, oh, right, and maybe that's the truth that's in Christ, right? Like that nobody looks at. It's like,
Yeah, much has been
because
given.
he's been given full authority, right? It's multiple times there. Like he's given all authority from God, right? Which means that he has to die. It's like,
Yeah. I'm having a completely different idea of authority right now, because authority in my head used to be like, this person you're supposed to obey, but now that's completely different. It's like, no, this person represents something bigger than you and him. And it's not that by definition you're supposed to obey them. No, by obeying this person, you're obeying what they're representing. And yeah, authority has a
well, there's more, right? Because
the whole,
you
the gestalt that to which they're true.
no, but there's a different level, right? Because
Mhm.
you are supposed to obey them, unless it's in conflict with your relationship with God. Like you are supposed to obey the authority, and the reason that you're supposed to obey the authority is because you don't have their knowledge, right? So they're at a level of reality which is above you necessarily,
Yeah.
right? That has a different knowing that with different revelation that's not accessible to you.
Yes. They're wiser.
No.
No? Okay.
No. But you don't know that.
Now I'm confused.
You don't know if they're wiser or not. It's irrelevant.
But isn't this like when you're saying they're seeing reality at a higher level?
But that doesn't mean that they're wiser. That just means that they have different knowledge. They
Okay.
know different being.
They know differently than you.
Yes, they
Yes.
know a different being, right? Like
They know a
if
different being. Yeah.
so they're participating in a different being,
Yeah.
and you cannot participate in that being unless you're at their office,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Then you need to be unconditionally obedient, because any condition you impose does not belong in their conditions, does not belong in their world to begin with.
Right. Which is a really rough message.
It is a rough message, and it's kind of pushing all my buttons at the moment. I think I have a problem with that.
It's still pushing my buttons as well.
Yeah.
But right, like if like two things, right? One thing is like, why are you rebelling, right? Like that means that you know better, right? Like where's this authority? Like that's God's authority,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, but God's authority put that person above you. So like you're now in a contradiction, right? So that's one thing. And secondly, like if you are better, you should be faithful and dutiful, and you will be put in the place of authority. Like
Exactly. Thank you. This is exactly why I have a problem with it. This is exactly why I push it, because I have a tendency to just accept what the other person is saying. You know what I mean? It's like I just assume that the other person has authority sometimes. Sometimes I just get taken out by people who act authoritatively.
right,
And I
but
kind of have my assessment of them, because they seem to be successful. They give wise advice. They have this list of criteria where they qualify as a person of God.
yeah, but you're universalizing. This is the problem.
You're idealizing, you mean?
No, you're universalizing.
Universalizing.
Right? So they might be wise,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that they're wise at every like
Yes.
this is
Yeah. General.
like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
this is what the thing, right? You can only give advice about the thing that you have a revelation of.
Yeah. So
Right?
they
So
had
if
revelations in this aspect of life, but life is combinatorially explosive, so you can't just assume that they had revelation everywhere, all over the place.
well, you can assume that they hadn't.
You can't assume any of them. You can't.
You can assume that they hadn't. Like
Huh?
it is a rule that they don't have authority on every
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Mhm.
Jesus wasn't married.
Yeah.
Like he didn't talk about that, right? Like maybe there's a reason why he didn't talk about it. Because he didn't have authority to talk about it. Like,
Okay. Okay.
So, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't hold truth which is relevant to marriage, and
Yeah.
that people can have within the truth, his truth, have revelations about marriage, right? Like within his name, marriage can still be subsumed.
Yeah. That was the line of reasoning that was going through my head, that whatever truths he reveals or whatever he gave, it can be connected to marriage somehow.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't have the authority to talk about it directly, but I mean, yeah.
No, it has to relate to marriage. Like,
I mean, yeah,
well,
of course it has to. But
because if he is the source of truth, right, then all of being, and marriage is part of being, has to be under his name.
contained in there.
Yeah.
That's the Muslim view of the Quran, I think. I think one
Well,
could
yeah,
say
they should
about the
say
Quran.
that, yes.
Yeah.
Like, because else they have a problem. then they're not coherent.
Yeah. See the lack of. Never mind. No, I'm not gonna get into this. Yeah.
Like you see how I can say things about things I don't know about, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about Islam, but like I know about what is necessary,
Mm.
right? Like this is what I've been doing. Like I've been looking at all the things that are necessary. Like you can't get around this, you can't get around that. And what's this rebellion stuff? Well, the rebellion stuff is saying, well, I know it better, right? Like I'll just ignore all of these things, and then I make my local system that just relates to these 5 variables, and then we get utopias. Like nope, like you need to account for all of these things, and what accounts for all of these things? Well, that's an open system, right?
Mm.
And I don't know if Islam is an open system actually, because I have the suspicion that it's not, or it moves in that direction. Like just like Protestantism, I don't think Protestantism is an open system either.
Yeah, I don't have the authority to comment on that. So
I don't either.
Yeah.
But that's the gestalt that
Yeah.
I'm seeing, right?
Can you expand on that?
The authority that I have
No.
applicable.
The gestalt that you're seeing. I'm gonna change my place and get to a bit more comfortable location, if you don't mind. Yeah, go on.
Well, okay, so let's just what's the claim of the Protestants, right? Like we have this book, and this book is the source of everything, right?
It's the word of God.
Well, no, it's more. It's the source of everything.
Quran?
No, the Bible for Protestants.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, sure.
And
Yeah.
I think the Quran is kind of making the same claim. That's why you're not allowed to burn it. Like,
When you say source of everything, you mean like literally everything, or all knowledge, or
well, like what's the difference between all knowledge and everything?
that's a good question.
There you go.
That's like Jonathan Bezos saying that Lord's Prayer contains all of creation, right?
Yeah, that's
So
probably
since
true.
all the secrets of being, yes, because I've actually read this. So I'm saying this because I read this from a Sufi mystic, that the Quran contains the secrets of being.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'd like to highlight to the viewers that I'm not a good authority on Islam. I'm just saying what I remember.
Yeah, but I think you have to say that.
Okay.
Like if you don't say that, then you're what are you doing? Like you're not making a universal claim, and so you're incomplete. Which is fine, but also you're a limited authority at that point, right? Which a religion can do, because if a religion is making a claim of a limited authority, then they're challenging their own authority.
Yeah.
So that doesn't work, right? And so Christianity got this hack with Jesus, right? So they say Christ is the authority, right? And Christ is a person, right? Which is the source of revelation. And now you fix the problem. Because now you're no longer in a closed system, because Christ isn't closed.
So for Christians, Christ makes the system an open system. It's no longer confined to a book, but by being confined to a person, it becomes an open system.
Right.
And what that looks like practically, I'm imagining right now, and please correct me if I'm wrong, what that looks like practically is when you pray to Jesus and you listen and you receive, that's the open system. It is open to revelation.
Right.
Okay.
And like this is the problem with Protestants again, right? Like I think Protestants, because of personal revelation, right? Like they cut out the hierarchy effectively, right? There's like you can play the game with God, like you don't need Moses's whatever, right? That breaks it, right? Because now the book is the authority, and I don't think the book can hold the authority, because you need to interpret the book.
Okay. So and the interpretation for you comes from revelation.
Yes, it comes from the living tradition.
Absolutely, from the living tradition. So is it
Right,
revelation?
and the living tradition is that which guides you in your path to revelation. Like that's what it is.
All right. No, Islam has pretty much the same thing. That
Right, but like you have to
judge it in
that.
the light of the living tradition. That's
Right, but the Protestants cut that off.
yeah,
right?
they cut the tradition completely off. They blinded themselves and just put themselves in a closed system where they only cross-reference the Bible to figure everything out.
But like I think Islam has done the same thing, because they don't have a central authority. Right, so effectively they're in the same problem as the Protestants. Like, and I don't see how they're not. Maybe they're not, but like
because they don't have the central authority of Jesus. You mean?
well, but also of the
No,
Pope
I mean,
or whatever.
because
Right?
so when you say central authority, you mean in the sense of Christ, not in the sense of a church, for example, or something like that.
Yeah, but the church is the representation of the body of Christ on earth.
Okay.
Like that, it's literally the body of Christ. Like,
yeah, I don't think I should be talking about this. I don't have. Yeah. It's not.
no,
It's not.
but it's like, what makes you say that, right? Like this makes me say that, right? So what are the Protestants doing? Well, they're having the body of Christ with a spiritual head. They don't have a physical head, right? It's like, okay, like how do you want something to work with a spiritual head? Because now, like, Jesus takes the wheel, literally, right? Like, because who's in charge of the telos? No, nobody. So what is the thing that binds? To go back to the binding. Well, nothing is binding. You see it with all these Protestants. They're just church shopping, right? Like I'm rebelling against my church, like literally, right? Like my church doesn't have authority, and they might be actually right? Like they might literally don't have the authority, like because if your preacher doesn't have revelation, then like what is he preaching? So, but if you don't have a tradition that checks your preacher, right? That can say, well, this guy is legit or not. Like, so anyway, so that's one thing, and then it's like, well, what happens if you have a spirit without a head?
Yeah,
Well,
it just floats away.
well, yeah, you get egregores effectively. You get
Yeah,
demons.
yeah.
You literally get demons. And what's happening in society? Well, like society is basically Protestantism on steroids, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like, oh, I'll choose my gods, right? Like you can even say that Protestantism on steroids is polytheism, right? But
Okay.
because they're picking a convenient god, right, to fulfill their purpose, which they are not aware of, right? Or even if they're aware of it, they don't have a good relationship to, because they can't, because they don't have a relationship to God. So, um, so you see where that leads, right? It leads into chaos. It leads into absurdity. It leads into the worshipping of the the margins, right? Like it leads into all of these craziness, and it's unsustainable. Like it will break. Like you see it in all the Protestant churches, right? Like they break.
Yeah. Okay. And what is the alternative? What does the alternative look like? Like
Well,
what
that would be the Catholic Church, right? Like the Catholic Church is a hierarchy which is in, right. So this is the representation of the authority of Christ on earth, with everybody being part of the body, right? So if that works correctly, right, which means that it would be guided by revelation, then and not corrupted by power gains and stuff like that, right? Then that would manifest Christ's will on earth, right? Like that would be the vehicle by which we can participate in God's will, like necessarily, like by definition, effectively.
So in other words, you basically the Catholic Church would be the hierarchy of the wisest and the chosen Christians who are the best attuned with the will of God, and therefore have the authority to speak for God on earth. They're like the
But
antenna.
yeah, yes, but again, right? Like there are different levels, right? So like what it takes to be a bishop is not the same what it takes to be a priest, right? Like
Yeah.
we're talking about eyes up and eyes down, and actually I think Jesus said that as well at some point, or at least it's in the Bible, right? So there's people who have eyes up who relate to God, to the highest, right, which would be prophets, right? So they're responsible for the vision that everybody participates in. And then there's people who relate to the people, they look down, right? So they're a representation of the emanation manifesting in its plurality, right? Like
Yeah.
in its specifics, right? And so you need both, right? And so you need something that all the shepherds unites the shepherds, right? And that needs to be oriented towards the vision, right? Which is brought up in some sense separate from the hierarchy, right? Because these people don't fit in. The prophets don't really fit in the hierarchy, right? In some sense, right? And and so that's a dance, right? Which can function well if these people are fulfilling their roles properly, or it can, yeah, it can work not well, right? But that means that like some people would be amazing priests, but they shouldn't be bishops, right? Not because they're not noble enough or whatever, right? Like or not holy enough. No, because it's not their calling, right? Like they're not supposed to operate on that level, right?
Yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah.
And I think politics should work the same, but that's like you can't do that if you don't have the church, right? Like
Mhm.
if you don't have the spiritual organized properly, then politics cannot be
Yeah.
done from a place of submission, right?
Mm.
And that's what we see. We see rebels in
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
politics,
Yeah. To the bottom trying to take control rather than the top
right?
trying to control. Yeah. So I'm having this image of this very sophisticated antenna now. I hope I can use that metaphor. And the different levels of the antenna are different people with different callings or different predispositions to different ways of knowing. And when you have that, when you have this on earth, only then can you trust, because then you have your attunement to God, and that instructs everything lower than that, all the way down to every Christian on earth. And that's what you call an open system.
Right.
Basically, they are like prophet-like, not exactly prophets, but they are constantly there to renew the religion, to bring in, to tell you, yeah, okay, I see, yeah.
And like I don't think it's an option, right?
Mm.
Like if you want to build something that lasts, you have to, like, which would be mean that it's in accordance of the will of God, right? Like it's like a tautology.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, in the end, God is what keeps everything up together, and then this.
Right. And also, right, it's not an option, right? Like
Mhm.
that the other side is like it's not an option, right? And this goes back to the binding, right? It's like, okay, yes, I just have to surrender to this. Like even if it's corrupt, whatever, like it's the only chance,
You have no other choice.
right?
Even if this church is corrupt, it's like there is no other alternative. Otherwise, it's just fall into rebellion and everything falls apart.
Right.
And that kind of is reflected in the Republic when Socrates actually goes through with his execution. But he goes through for other reasons. So who am I to say about that? Yeah.
Right, but he's
Hmm.
embodying the same spirit,
Yeah,
right?
he embodies that spirit that he doesn't want to rebel, because if we don't follow, everything falls apart. Because you don't, yeah, because you can't just, from your position, you can't rebel because you'd be assuming a top-down position from where you stand, and you can't do
Right.
that.
And
That's
and
the
there's
rebellion.
right, and the distinction between Socrates and Jesus is that Jesus united in his death, and Socrates didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I like I've had discussions with Mark about this. I don't think it was okay of Socrates to drink the hammock,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now he killed himself. Like what Jesus did is he didn't kill himself. Like he let himself get killed. Like
Yeah.
and so the guilt is not on him. But in Socrates, it was important that it was his choice and that the guilt was on him. And there's something wrong there.
So he was kind of sinful in the sense that he killed his own authority, whereas Jesus just let it
Right.
happen. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Like he by making a proclamation, he delegitimized himself,
Mm-hmm.
which is really sad, right?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, it's really sad what happened there, but
no,
I'm
no,
seeing
but
the distinction you're talking about right now. It's very subtle, by the way. It's very minute. It's just like it's really small detail, but it's actually a really big detail. Like in one case, he was killed, but in the other case, no. In one case, it's like he didn't even have a choice; just he was just dragged down. But in the other case, like, yeah, let me just walk.
well, no, but Jesus did have a choice, right? But it was on a different level. Like he chose not to defend himself, right?
Right.
Like he said, like the way that he defended himself, and maybe I need to read the symposium, but like to contrast that. But the way that he chose to defend himself is that's what you say, right? And he did this with a lot of people, right? Is like for especially the Pharisees, like he made them make statements, right? And then obviously what they said was wrong because like they're in a bad frame, right? So they have to be wrong, effectively. And then he trapped them, right? And then like also like he does the other thing, right? Like he doesn't name himself. Well, I have to double check that, but he lets himself get named by others a lot, at least, right? Which is analogous to what I say, right? Like you should get your nickname from your friends, right? Like there's something in being named by the others, right? Or like who are you is determined by your participation with others. So you can't self-identify. Like that doesn't make any sense, right? Which is what's wrong with the world nowadays, right? Like you cannot assign yourself your own identity. You get your identity by participating, and basically what's being revealed, right? Like what is the potential that you can interact with gives you your name, right? Because that's who you are, right?
The otherness is awarded to you by the outside. You don't award it to yourself. You don't define yourself. You are defined by outside. Yeah.
So so Jesus does this really interesting trick, right? Yeah, maybe I need to read it again, but like that just stood out to me, right? Like this idea with identity, and like, and in some sense, he does get his identity from God as well, right? Which yeah, now I need to think about that differently. Anyway, so to go back to truth, I don't know, can I bind this in truth? Why?
Well, of course you can. I mean, I am already binding it. You want to go ahead?
No, like I'm talking too much.
No. I mean, now here I start getting very, very conflicted. So now I'm going to start speaking from my understanding of the Islamic framework. My understanding is that you have the system, you have this revelation, and you have, of course, the knowledgeable people who have a say in what this is trying to say. The people who know the whole, or the people who are familiar with all the parts enough to have a say of representing the whole. And these people tell you what they think God's commandments are. That gives you the religion. And then you have the saints, who are very, very rare people who receive revelation. Well, not exactly revelation, because revelation is only for prophets. But these people sort of have a deep understanding of what's there. And that's truth. Truth in this case, okay, scratch all of that. I'm just blabbing right now. Just starting to lose track of what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I'm conflicted now between two kinds of truth. One is absolute certainty. The other is revelation, which you're talking about. And the moments where I've experienced what I think is revelation, I was always afraid that I was being deceived or I was deceiving myself. So maybe this tells me that I've never actually received a revelation, because I was always in doubt when I was getting what I was getting, receiving what I was receiving.
Well, you didn't submit, right? So maybe you didn't fulfill it. Or...
Well, no, in these rare moments, I actually was submitting. So I did make a leap of faith.
No, you can't have fear and Like,
No, I mean,
it
in
feels
these
like a
moments, I
contradiction.
wasn't afraid. In these moments, when I
Okay.
did actually jump, I wasn't afraid anymore. So I made the jump, and then suddenly everything was okay. Everything okay. It's like this was worth doing the jump.
Hmm.
In these moments, okay, you receive things, but afterwards, it's like,
But like, I want to take a step back because
yeah,
you said absolute certainty, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah. I think this is a problem that I have. I it's very hard for me to firmly accept something unless I have certainty. So either certainty,
Yeah, but what is certainty? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That word shouldn't
yeah,
exist.
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Like this is something I keep telling myself. Like, what are you looking for? Because there's no such thing.
No. Like, no, but you said you use it, right? So it's not only that you're looking for it, right? Like, you seem to know it.
Yeah.
Like, it seems to have been revealed to you that certainty is like what is revealing to you certainty, and like, how does that work?
Okay. It's good that you asked that question. So I think when I say certainty, I seem to be talking about, seem to be unconsciously talking about this compulsive spirit within me. This, I call it a daemon, not a demon, a daemon. This thing in me that says, okay, look at this. This has a very strong claim, and it coheres with X, Y, and Z, and it seems terrifying. So go after it.
That's confirmation bias.
You think so?
Well, like you said it coheres with these things, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
way
yeah, 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 yeah.
the way that I see it is you have a bunch of values, right? And then there's something that aligns with those values, and then that's obviously the way forward.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to really change my relationship with how I think of these things. Because it's actually liberating what you're telling me right there, because it's giving me a new way of looking at truth right now. Because so far, I think I've kind of been stuck in this confirmation bias circle,
Hmm.
which was negative. And I've known that. And I think I knew that. I think a part of me knew that because of all of the horrible gut feelings I've been having.
Are you having a revelation about truth?
Now,
Yeah.
no. Honestly, no, because I'm just reiterating what I've already been telling myself a while ago. I wouldn't call this a revelation. Sorry to disappoint you.
So
um,
so so what do you how would you describe this conversation?
this conversation,
Yeah. You wouldn't call the conversation revelatory? Like,
I'm a bit scared of calling it that.
so let me rephrase that. Is there a lot of perspectives that you've gained access to that provide intelligibility that is superior to your previous framing?
There's a way that provides, or there's hope of a way that provides new perspective. There's a
Why
hope of a different way.
why did you tell me that you should rethink all of these things?
Because I knew it before and you just confirmed it. I knew
What?
before.
No. I did more than that. Like, I don't believe that's all. Like, are you saying that I didn't provide you with new information?
Now, of course, you provide me with new information in many aspects, but in that regard,
Right.
it was
No, but
something.
why are you reciprocally narrowing on one aspect of the conversation? I'm asking you whether this conversation was revelatory, and you're reducing it to one axis.
Let me look back at it. Because revelatory for me, like, it provides freshness.
Mm-hmm.
There were revelatory moments, yes.
Okay, so it
There
was a
were revelatory.
revelatory
Yeah,
conversation.
there were revelatory moments, yes.
Okay, and then you choose to frame it in a frame that is excluding the revelation.
The conversation.
Yeah.
I don't label the entire conversation as revelatory, but only
Yeah,
these aspects.
what are you doing? Like this is word games. Like
Yeah, then it doesn't matter which part of it we say.
it matters. Like it matters a lot. Like that's the most important thing. Because you're being dismissive. You're turning away from the potential, right? The revelation towards the non-revelation, which like why would you do that? Well, like why would you make that move? Like that's
Because I don't see it this way. Because I genuinely don't.
no, you're scared. Like it's
There's
like you
definitely
just
fear.
no,
I'm
you just said that you do see it that way. Like you just affirmed to me that yes, there was many revelations in the conversation. That means that you see the conversation as revelatory, right? So
Yeah.
now you're having the option to describe it as revelatory or not revelatory, and you're picking a set of values and you're adhering to those in order to make a decision which of those frames that you privilege, right?
Mm.
That's my contention with you. And you're choosing the negative ones. That's what I'm telling you. You're turning away from God, right? You're turning away from good. You're turning away from the revelation towards whatever. Like I don't even care what that is. Like it's bad. Like just don't do that.
Mm-hmm. I want more of these moments.
Right. I agree. Like that's where the goodness of God shines through. That's where the light meets the fertile ground and can manifest beauty, right?
Yeah.
That and so like that's all you need to know. It's like, oh, like that happened. I want more of that. That's the only reasoning that you need. Like all the other stuff is bullshit. Like you could just throw it away.
Yeah, sure. It's just that, yeah, that's a good place to focus on. It's like a window.
Hmm. And
It's like,
that's being
yeah.
true, right?
Yeah,
Being
exactly.
being true to
Being true.
God in some sense, right? Like if we're talking about if we go back to the obligations, right? Like
Yeah.
what are the principles that we're supposed to follow, right? Like
Hmm.
maybe this has revealed something about the principles that we need to follow, right?
Yeah.
And in some sense, taking these things in our own hand, right? Like it doesn't mean that you never should take things in your hand, but if you want to take them in your hand, you're going to end up with doing stuff like that for whatever reason. Like it's not relevant what the reason is, but it's not a good thing, right? So just don't do that. And then, right, like when you stop doing that, reorganization happens, right? And revelation will follow. Like that's just necessarily true.
Yeah. It is a natural thing that comes when you put the vacuum there. Because essentially, when you empty yourself, there's vacuum, so revelation is going to happen.
Right.
I think what you're calling revelation, I'm calling reception. Because for me, revelation is only limited to the Quran. So
yeah, but what are you receiving? Like you're like, this is the problem. Like you're saying that there's a pre-existence out there that you're receiving. And like maybe, but also you don't know the pre-existence. So if you start trying to get the pre-existence, you're corrupting it. If you're the one holding your antenna all the time, right? And then, oh, I should be pointing here. I should be pointing there. I should be pointing there.
Okay.
like even if that pointing is true, you're gonna only see part of the elephant because you're reciprocally narrowed on that part of the elephant.
Right.
Like you have to be. Like it's not an option.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we need to maybe table it. I think you need to rewatch this conversation.
Yeah.
from a different perspective, so that you can
I need to
have
process
some.
this, bro. I need to really process this right now.
Well, like there's also revelation happening to me, right? Like so, when you say I already knew this, right? Like I said a bunch of things, right? And then I hear myself talk, and I'm like, holy shit, right? Like I listen to myself, and what the fuck? What am I saying, right?
Yeah.
So you have to you have to realize what revelation is, right? Like because in some sense, my description of the body, right, allows me to look at the body in a new way, which is like I'm looking at myself, looking at things, getting a new perspective. And yeah, what does that like? There's something there. Maybe that's the dialectic, right? Like where I can at least assist myself in the dialectic, right? Where because what I guess I'm trying to analyze what I'm doing, right? Because I'm trying to do two things, right? I'm trying to connect to you, right? And I'm trying to be truthful. And then I'm seeing myself doing that. And that allows me to see the perspective that I adopt when I speak to you.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you're I'm gonna speak of it loosely here. You're looking back at your own gestalt.
Right. Yes. I'm
And that's the
relating to my
revelation.
history.
That's like a self-revelation, revelation of your own self, like a
Right,
sudden self-awareness.
right, which is really
What am
dangerous.
I really? Yeah.
Right. Like what I'm doing is really dangerous, right? Because if I'm not humble, right, then I will reciprocally narrow into self.
Okay, that was very helpful. That was very helpful. That was very because I also had a moment of revelation. If that's what you mean, then I also had a moment of revelation where I was noticing how I have projected this role of this is the super wise man now, and I have to do everything he says, and then like, no, wait, just a minute, distance yourself from that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And that's how we learn. It's like, oh, we can see ourselves, right? Like, oh, because I don't like I didn't assign that identity to you.
Yeah.
Like that didn't happen in this conversation. And so you self-identified, and then you engaged with me, and then you thought the identity was coming from me.
Yes. Okay, now it's there. Like I just saw it right there. Like I see you in a different light for a brief moment. It just flashed. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we should definitely do a follow up, and I hope that all our listeners like can follow this stuff, because it was like really hardcore.
I really apologize to the listeners for straying off the topic so many times, but it's just a very, very
No, I think
yeah.
what you're doing is really helpful. Like I think
Okay.
what you're doing is you're exemplifying the struggle, right?
Mm.
From good faith, and that is like when I speak, right? Like I couldn't have done this without you, right? So
Okay.
I need you to see you struggle to know what I need to tell you.
So you need okay, yeah, you need to see the wound in order to heal it, something like that. You need
Right.
to exemplify the struggle so you can point, this is the problem right there.
Yeah, I need
I
to
see.
see the lack, so that I can identify.
Well,
Like
I'm happy I
that's
exemplified the next one.
no, but like there like okay, so maybe that's my relationship to beauty. Like
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna stop, but I'll just keep going.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
So what I see is I see a hole, right?
Mm.
And then I see you with a gap, right? And so you're not participating in the fullness of the beauty. And then
Mm.
I'm like, what is the ugliness or whatever, right? The darkness, the shadow that is manifesting the lack, right? Like what's the organ? And then I'm describing what I think fits there, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
that if that gets placed there, at least it takes enough of the shape that it allows you to have a revelation, right?
Yes, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. So
Because
you
I'm
look at me.
combining the whole, right? Like I'm
That's a lot of work, by the way. That requires skill. I mean, what you basically said is that you see me struggle until you notice what's the half that's missing,
Mhm.
and then because you have some familiarity with the whole that you want
I
me to
have a
see,
knowing of the whole, right?
you
So
have a knowing
and
of the
that's
whole.
why like I receive revelation, because I need to relate to the whole in order
Yeah.
to figure out where you're not relating to the whole. And
Yeah. In a sense, my struggle is helping you see that also. Like
right.
my darkness is helping you see the light, and then you can inject it right where it's missing.
Yeah, and I
And
think it's necessary. Like I don't think I could do it without. Like, so thank
of
you
course,
for
yeah, it's two-sided in this case. It's two-sided. It has to be.
right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And yeah, now
Thank you. Thank you
we're
for
gonna
having me again.
we're gonna have an end to this. Please comment with maybe things that we missed out upon, right? Like we like I don't see everything. I don't see all the holes, right? So maybe there's something that you can assist me in seeing. Ahmed can maybe get some different angles of approach that would be useful for him. So yeah, and like participation, right? Like when you write your comment, you need to relate to me and to Ahmad, and that puts you in a different relationship, which is healthy for you, because that gives you a chance for revelation as well. Yeah, you wanna have some concluding thoughts on the conversation?
Yeah, I think I want to relate more to revelation right now, wherever it comes from. Like, especially since sometimes it actually comes from the Quran itself, because it actually has have some sources of revelation in there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right. It
Yeah.
has to, else it
Yeah.
wouldn't exist this long.
Yeah. And I think I have a healthier relationship to truth right now because I don't have to keep myself trapped in this cycle of fear just to keep myself together. Because now I know that if I let go, I can trust that if I open up, that God will pull me together.
Mhm. Well, yeah, but within, right? Like only if you're ready, right?
Of course. Yeah. If you're ready, as much as I'm ready, probably.
Right.
And if I'm not ready, then I need to know about that.
You need to, yeah, you need to trust like the signals that you get, right? And not dive after that beauty. Like if your body says no, then like that beauty is just gonna have to pass you by. Like that's just because that if you dive after it, it's addiction, right? Like you're misguided.
Yeah, that's helpful actually. That I should listen to my body when it says no, because so far I've really been mean to my body in this regard, always demonizing it, and it said no so many times, and I think I went too fast in this direction. I don't think I was going in the wrong direction, but I think I went in the direction wrong, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, wrong orientation.
Wrong orientation, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I appreciate you and Mark's help for this, for helping me reorient in the proper direction.
Okay, man. Like yeah, let's plan a follow up, and we'll see everybody next time on embodying the logos. So yeah, that definitely happened. I hope. Bye. Oh, that's not the button. Holy cow.